She screamed, "Wait, you can't block the lake, it's community property." But the lake was on my land. The words hit like a slap in the cold morning air. I stood by the wooden gate, fishing rod still in hand, watching a woman in a pink visor march toward me with 3 strangers behind her. They were carrying coolers like they owned the place. My lake shimmered behind me, calm and private, the only peace I had left since I left the army. I'd bought this land 5 years ago, every inch of it, worked double shifts, fixed every broken fence myself. And now this woman, this HOA queen, was yelling at me like I was trespassing on my own property. "Ma'am," I said slowly, "this lake isn't part of your HOA. You're standing on private land." She scoffed, snatching a folded paper from her bag. "Oh, really? Then explain this." It was a printed HOA notice, the kind she'd probably made on her home printer. At the bottom, in bold letters, violation, unauthorized use of community property. Fine. Won $200. Her guests started setting up their chairs, ignoring me completely. I could feel my hands clench. "Ma'am, I don't think you understand," she cut me off. "You're new here. You don't get how things work. This whole area falls under my supervision." My supervision. She actually said that. I took a slow breath, keeping my voice calm. "Funny," I said. "Because according to the county map, this line right here," I pointed to the faded metal post by the gate, "is where your HOA ends. This side belongs to me." Her face twitched. For a second I thought she'd back off, but instead she stepped closer and hissed, "We'll see about that." Then she pulled out her phone. "Yeah," she said into it, loud enough for everyone to hear. "This man is threatening me on community property. Send someone right now." My stomach dropped. I looked at her calm, fake smile, the kind people wear when they know they've started something bad. And I realized she wasn't calling her friends. She was calling the cops, but not the real ones. She called the cops on me, on my own land. 2 SUVs rolled up within minutes, lights flashing, but no sirens. That was the first red flag. The men who stepped out wore uniforms, but something about them felt off. No badges, no body cams, no unit numbers. One of them even had his shirt untucked. Karen strutted toward them like a movie star arriving at her own set. "There he is," she shouted, pointing right at me. "He's threatening HOA residents and blocking access to the lake. Arrest him, arrest me. On my land, I didn't move. I dealt with worse back in Afghanistan. Angrier faces, louder guns. But this was different. This was someone twisting the law just because she could." One of the officers stepped forward. "Sir, you'll need to leave this area immediately. This is community property." I smiled a little. "You sure about that, officer?" He hesitated. "That's what we were told." "Then maybe you should check your map," I said, and pulled my phone out. I opened the county property records app, the one that showed every plot, every owner, every line drawn by law. I zoomed in. My name clear as day, right over the lake. Karen's smirk faltered. But before she could say a word, another officer snatched the phone from my hand and barked, "That's enough." "Turn around." The click of the fake cuffs behind my back was louder than it should have been. Karen folded her arms, smiling like she'd just won. Her guests were laughing. One of them opened a beer. I wanted to shout to tell them the truth, but I stayed silent. I knew something she didn't. My security system, hidden in the trees, had been recording the whole thing. Every word, every fake badge, every lie. As they dragged me toward the SUVs, I looked straight at her and said quietly, "You sure you want to play this game?" She leaned close, whispering back, "You don't know who you're dealing with." I smiled. "Neither do you." Karen called fake cops to arrest me, but she didn't know I had the real footage. They threw me in the back of the SUV like I was some criminal. But instead of driving toward the police station, we turned into the old service road, one that didn't lead anywhere official. My gut told me this wasn't about the HOA anymore. Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was covering something bigger. I kept quiet, studying the fake cops through the glass partition. Their radios were off. No chatter, no codes, just silence. The driver kept glancing at his phone like he was waiting for instructions. Then I heard it, the buzz of a drone. My drone. The one I set up weeks ago to watch for trespassers near the lake. It was following us. The guy in the passenger seat looked up, squinting. "You see that thing?" "Forget it," the driver said. "Just drop him at the old shed. She'll handle it. She'll handle it. Karen." I leaned back and almost laughed. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I wasn't just some quiet ex-soldier fishing by a lake. I used to train local deputies on how to spot fake law enforcement. When the SUV stopped, they yanked me out and pushed me toward a rusted shed. Karen's car pulled up right after. She stepped out wearing that same smug smile, heels clicking on the gravel. "Well," she said, "maybe next time you'll think twice before blocking my guests." I stared at her. "Your guests? Or your buyers?" Her eyes flickered just for a second. I knew I'd hit the nerve. "What are you talking about?" She snapped. "You've been trying to sell access to my lake. Private tours. Fishing passes. I've seen the flyers." She froze. The fake cops looked at her, confused. I could feel the tension shift. Then a faint crackle came from one of their radios. "Unit 3, this is County Sheriff's Office. Identify yourself." Karen's face drained of color. I smiled slowly. "Told you," I said. "You don't know who you're dealing with." Karen tried to use fake cops, but the real sheriff was already listening. The fake cops froze. The voice on the radio came again, sharper this time. "Unit 3, respond immediately. You are not registered under this channel. Identify yourself now." The driver panicked and threw the radio onto the seat. Karen's face went pale, her confidence cracking for the first time. I could see her mind racing, trying to piece together what had gone wrong. She took a shaky step toward me. You did this, didn't you?" I didn't answer. I just tilted my head toward the sky. The faint hum of my drone grew louder until it hovered right above us, its little green light blinking like an eye of truth. One of the fake officers looked up and cursed under his breath. Karen tried to keep her voice steady. "Turn that thing off right now or I'll sue you." I smirked. "You can't sue me for recording on my own land." Just then, 2 real sheriff trucks pulled into the clearing. Blue lights flashing, dust kicking up around us. The fake cops tried to run, but one of them tripped over his own cuffs and hit the ground. The deputies jumped out, weapons drawn. "Hands where we can see them." The chaos exploded. Karen screamed at them to stop. "You don't understand. I'm with the HOA. These are authorized officers." One of the deputies grabbed the fake badge from her officer's chest and held it up. "Authorized?" "Lady, this thing's plastic." The other deputy turned to me. "You the property owner?" "Yes, sir," I said, calm and steady. "All on camera." Karen spun toward me, her voice breaking. "You set me up?" I looked her right in the eye. "No, Karen, you set yourself up." I just pressed record. The deputies cuffed the fake cops first. One of them tried to whisper something to Karen, but she stepped back, shaking her head. She finally realized no one was coming to save her. As they read her right, she glared at me and hissed, "You think this makes you a hero?" I shrugged. "No, it just makes me the owner." Karen screamed, "They're with the HOA," while real deputies cuffed her fake cops. Karen's perfect little world started falling apart right there on the gravel road. The deputies put her in the back of their truck, while the fake cops were hauled off one by one. But something about the whole thing still didn't sit right with me. She wasn't just a control freak. There was more. The sheriff, an older man with a calm voice, walked over. "You said you had footage?" "Yeah," I said, pulling up the drone feed on my phone. "Everything from when they showed up pretending to be officers." He watched for a few seconds and frowned. "That woman's been on our radar for months. You just gave us what we needed." I looked at him, surprised. "On your radar? For what?" He crossed his arms. "Land scams. She's been selling access to private properties, lakes, hunting grounds, even cabins. She'd tell people the HOA owned the area, take cash and disappear before anyone figured it out." My stomach turned. She was using fake cops to scare owners off. "Exactly," he said. "And you caught her red-handed. The sheriff told me to come by the station later to give a full statement." As they drove off with Karen screaming in the back seat, the whole area felt quiet again. Too quiet. I walked back toward my lake, passing the broken gate and empty beer cans her guests had left behind. The water reflected the sunset, peaceful again, but my mind was still spinning. Something about the flyers I'd seen earlier stuck with me. They didn't just advertise lake access, they listed 3 lakes in the area. Mine was one of them. But the other 2? They were owned by my neighbors, both elderly, both living alone. I stared across the water, a cold thought hitting me. If I hadn't stopped her today, she might have already gone after them next. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You think this is over?" No name. Just that one line. I looked up at the road where they'd taken her, and for the first time I wasn't sure if she was really done. Karen was arrested, but she still found a way to text me from the back of the sheriff's truck. That message didn't make sense. Karen was supposed to be locked up, yet somehow she was texting me like she was still calling the shots. I stared at the screen, half expecting another message, but it stayed still, the last words glowing in the dark. "You think this is over?" I didn't sleep that night. Every sound outside made me look toward the window. The woods were quiet, the lake calm, but something in the air felt wrong, like the peace wasn't real. By morning, I decided to drive into town and talk to the sheriff. The moment I walked in, his face told me everything. "She's out," he said before I even asked. "What? How?" he sighed. "Her lawyer filed something fast. Bail hearing at midnight. She claimed it was all a misunderstanding, that she was being framed by an angry neighbor." I clenched my jaw. "You're kidding." "Wish I was. But here's the thing, she's connected. HOA board's got money, friends in county offices. We'll build the case, but for now she's walking free." Walking free. I drove home trying to push down the anger. When I got there, the first thing I noticed was the sign. A big, fresh HOA violation notice nailed right to my gate. Bigger than before, bold red letters screaming immediate eviction pending. I ripped it down, but behind it was something else. A photo, it was me, standing by my truck. Taken from a distance, someone had been watching. That night I checked my cameras again, but 2 of them were dead, cut wires. Only 1 drone was still active, and as I scanned the feed, my heart stopped. A figure was standing at the edge of the lake. Pink visor, same posture, staring straight at the camera. Then the screen went black. Karen was supposed to be behind bars, but she was standing by my lake again, smiling. I grabbed my flashlight and the old rifle I kept from my service days. Not to use, just to feel ready. The woods were silent except for the crunch of gravel under my boots. Every few steps I stopped to listen. Nothing. Not even the frogs dared to croak tonight. When I reached the lake, the air felt heavy. The moon was low, glinting off the water like silver glass. No sign of Karen, just stillness. But then, I saw it. Her pink visor floating on the shore, half soaked. I stepped closer, every muscle tense. "Karen?" A branch snapped behind me. I turned fast. It wasn't Karen, it was one of the fake cops. The same guy who'd cuffed me before. His uniform was gone. Now he wore dark clothes and a smirk. "You made this worse for both of us," he said quietly. I didn't lower the rifle. "Where is she?" He took a step closer. "You think she's the one running this?" "She's just the face. The HOA? It's a front. The land deals go way higher than her." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Before he could answer, headlights flashed through the trees. A black SUV rolled up fast, stopping inches from the lake. Karen stepped out, dry, calm, visor gone, hair tied back. She looked different now, cold, controlled. "I told you this wasn't over," she said, her voice steady. "You think you exposed me, but you just opened the door." "The door to what?" I asked. "To what's really coming." The fake cop backed away slowly, like he didn't even want to be part of what was next. Karen smiled faintly. "You're going to wish you sold this land when you had the chance." Then she tossed something into the lake, a small black box. It sank fast, leaving only ripples. "What did you just do?" I demanded. She smiled wider. "Just insurance." Before I could move, the SUV peeled off, tires spitting dirt. I stood there staring at the lake as the ripples faded. The water was calm again, but deep down I knew something had changed. And whatever that insurance was, it was sitting at the bottom of my lake. Karen dropped something into my lake and smiled like she'd buried a secret under my land. By morning, the lake didn't feel like mine anymore. The water looked darker, heavier, like it was hiding her secret underneath. I barely slept, but I knew one thing. Whatever Karen dropped in there, I had to find it. I went to the shed, grabbed my old diving gear from my service days, and waded into the lake as the sun began to rise. The cold bit through my suit, but I kept going, scanning the bottom with my flashlight. It didn't take long. A black metal box wedged between 2 rocks, small but sealed tight with a digital lock. When I brought it to the surface and cracked it open, what I saw wasn't money or jewelry. It was a hard drive. Dozens of folders labeled with property names, bank statements, and video clips. Evidence. She'd recorded everything, every scam, every fake sale, every payoff. Karen had been running a full land racket through the HOA. backed by investors who were buying up lakes, woods, and farmland under fake names. She'd been the one in charge of cleaning out owners who wouldn't sell, and I wasn't her first target. I drove straight to the sheriff's office, heart pounding. The moment he saw the files, his face went still. This is enough to bring half that board down. It took hours, but by nightfall they had warrants ready, real ones. The sheriff himself led the raid. Karen's mansion was crawling with deputies by sunset. I watched from my truck as they led her out in cuffs again. This time for real. No fake badges, no bail this time. She saw me standing there and still tried to smile. "You think this ends with me?" she said quietly. I leaned on the truck door, calm. "No," I said. "It ends with the truth." The sheriff handed me a copy of the deed when it was all over. "County's clearing your record. You own that lake free and clear, and thanks to you, this whole scam's over." I drove home, parked by the water, and watched the moon reflect off the surface again. Peaceful, like nothing had ever happened. For the first time in months, I felt the quiet wasn't dangerous anymore. It was mine again. I cast my fishing line out, smiled to myself, and whispered, "Community property, huh?" The water stayed still. Karen said it was community property. Turns out she was running $1 million scam from my backyard.